Hello again, Ian Stokey with Mastermind Games, back for some Monsterpocalypse and some Martian Menace units. Power Pod, Saucer, Hunter, Plate Mail Metal. So this will be a little tricky because the shapes are very much 3D here. So there's not really a flat space in a normal sense of the word, or a bottom, really. So just get a nice base coat of this on the power pod here. Be nicking my finger a bit, so that's no problem there. Okay, so that gets about half of it. I'll have to do the other half later. It's going to be a fairly quick one, very simple color schemes. Okay. And Hunter, let's see here. Go ahead and start with the bottom and with the cannon on top. I'm trying not to get any paint into the divot there because that's where the flight stem will go once I get that far along. Bit too much water there. Okay, that should be alright. Salsa one. I am undecided if I'm going to, well, we'll see if I pull the original sculpt from first edition out or not by the end of it. Alright. And there's saucer one. Let's get a bit more on the first saucer. And saucer two. Let that dry, and then I can wrap this up. Alright. Still waiting for a lot of this to dry, but I can start on the bottom side of the saucer so I have a place to grip. Probably shouldn't have done that part just yet. It's gonna be okay. This way I'll have a place to grip when the rest of it's dry. Alright. Do a little bit more work on the power pod. It's going to take probably one more go for that. Hunter. Whoa, yikes. I've done it twice now. Okay. Oh boy. Okay. See if I can do this segment without losing hundreds of segments in a minute. So, still more of the plate mail metal. This should wrap this up. Just getting a nice solid coat on the whole model overall. And then later I will be picking out specific details in other colors. Now, I'm not doing the official color scheme here, but if you want the official color scheme, you'd follow this plate mail metal up with black and steel as a shade and true silver as a highlight, and then probably do a wash of leaf green or pale green for the lighting effect after picking out the details like I'll be doing next. Oh, nuts. After picking out the details that you want lit up like I'll be doing next. Excuse me, got a bit of a runny nose here. I just can't seem to catch a break on this stuff this year. So, now I'm laying these down on the side I already painted. So you're going to be looking at 2 or 3 goes around to get the base coat nice and solid, just because of how 3D these models are. You don't want to glue them onto the base until you're done painting either. Ah, boy, that's getting embarrassing. So this is just something that you're going to have to put up with. The Hunter's a nasty piece of work. And all 3 of these were from the original set in the original version. We've done some playing around with the units, but I believe all the monsters are going to end up being the same. Privateer has already done previews for monsters that appeared in the 2nd series, which was named I Chomp New York. And in that set, every faction had 1 monster based off a monster from the original set. But I think those, because they were a necessity from tooling to cut costs, would likely end up being redesigned. Okay. It's pretty good. Now once that's completely dry, I can pick out some details and get set for shading away. Okay. Here's where it gets tricky. Ruby Red 09101, I'm going to do the shading first, then go back in and pick out the areas to be lit up. This paint pots got very dry, so I added some mixing medium to it to try to amend that. Hopefully it might have worked. And just like with the base coat, I'll have to go 2 or 3 rounds with this stuff. Thinning it out with 1 part water to 1 part paint to make it into a wash. So again, if you want the iconic color scheme, you'll use black and steel, but I'm going for a Mars Red. I'm not too concerned about the engine there because that's going to get picked out in, excuse me, that's going to be lit up when I'm done. Oh boy, yeah. Problem with something that's almost perfectly round like this is it's difficult to figure out where you're going to grip it. Just start working on the assumption that you're going to end up with paint all over you, and you'll feel better about it. Okay. my frame rate because I've gotten quite paranoid at this point about it. Keeping the brush nice and wet during this. I'm not certain exactly what elements I'm going to pick out in the lighting later, but okay, that's a very awkward grip there. That's kind of what I'm stuck with, so. Well, no matter how I grip it, it's going to be awkward on half of it. I suppose I could try using a temporary adhesive to get this on one of the flight stems, but I only have exactly 3 of them, 1 for the hunter and 2 for the saucers. But, so that would be a bit awkward no matter how I did it. It would run the risk of one of the flight stands getting paint on it that I don't want. So just things to bear in mind. Either way, something like this that's needs to be painted on all surfaces is going to be tricky no matter how you do it. So, okay. Once that dries, I can get the other sides. Okay. Round 2 of ruby red. Don't need too much more to finish up, but make sure my brush is nice and wet. Finish up the top there. As I said earlier, there's no way of doing this that isn't going to be at least somewhat awkward. In fact, even priming these for painting was awkward. But it's not as relevant as the paint job is right now. A little more paint to finish the hunter. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. And the reference card describes the weapon as a high-accuracy beam cannon. Another interesting feature is the hunter cannot participate in combined attacks with a lone wolf ability, but its blast stat is through the roof for as far as units go, with a 2 action dice and a 2 blast die or 2 boost dice. And an ability called Penetrate that puts a -1 penalty on target defenses. So, alright. Once that's all dry, I can prep the lighting effects and move on. Alright. Prepping some lighting effects. That red took a while to dry. Matte white. smaller, finer brush. Essentially doing this as a base coat and starting on the power pods. See, how do I want to do this? Okay. So the area that's going to be affected is going to be painted in the matte white. Now I need to do this after the shading, because otherwise the shade will just get into this color and darken it. So I'll just do one of each on camera, and then, because this will take a minute. So power pod arbitrarily first. So just really staying focused here. So I'm not talking too much. Just carefully going in the lines. Now, technically, these units are a little more tricky than standard. They're not going to be doing combined. This, at least, specific set is more about holding objectives and denying the enemy objectives. Power pod, no offensive capabilities, but with its cargo ability, it's easy to place in the field with your saucers. And the amplifier allows it to give you an extra power dice. When powering up, that only stacks once, but having multiple power pods on multiple objectives is not a bad idea at all. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do the cone. Using the picture on the back of the card as a reference. This isn't lit up in the end, but I'm going to light it up. And I'm also going to get all these nodes on the bottom. Because again, you can paint these however you please. Don't have to follow the official by any means. There are quite a few of these. There we go. Get the other pot off camera, but I'll get a saucer. So, a little bit in the abduction arrays. That's one of its actions. It can simply force a unit, an enemy unit with defense of 2 or less, to go back into reserves. I'll have to double check the rules on cover to see how that would apply, but a lot of the support units are defense 2. This can suck them up pretty quickly. And it can also use transport to put a unit with cargo out of the reserves into play adjacent, which means turn 1 this thing can move and place a power pod as its action. And if you've got another saucer, that could go and move and abduct. Now, I think I'll keep those. So, let's see here. Yeah, a little more lighting. So I'm going to do this section around these ports, but not on this plating here. Keep them glowing from below. It was a common theme on the original first edition Monsterpocalypse, Martian Menace. Everything glowing. Pretty much just green, just translucent green plastic with a bit of silver on it here and there. Flip it over and get the big dome here. And this stuff in between, while trying to avoid hitting the outer ring. Might ask which end is facing forward. The answer is there is no front side. It's 360 degree central cockpit. I'm stopping just short the abduction emitters here. Another thing on the card says high capacity digital storage, which means it's somehow storing its victims in a digital format. Now the hunter. Start with the engines. And this one got nicked a bit when I was cleaning it. So I'm going to go these channels along. And the hunter is not exclusive to this pack. There's actually one in the other base unit pack too. Another unit pack has the Vanguards, which are kind of their basic attack fighter. As they were in Mark 1, and they look the same in Mark 2 to be just kind of a basic ship with a smaller gun. Again, the hunter is more for taking out enemy units and maybe the weaker buildings, but not. Won't be able to do anything against monsters though. Okay, now let's see here. It's totally my call on how I want to paint this, but that said, I have quite a few choices on how to go about doing it. Excuse me. Little dot there. Little dot there. And this is part here is supposed to be a targeting array according to the card, which is nice because Mark 1, it was a blind purchase collectible game, and you would cross-reference symbols onto a card to determine special abilities, but the only fiction came in these strategy guides they put out for the first 2 series, and those didn't say much. Just having a card with even a little bit of equipment mentioned actually adds a lot of flavor to these guys, giving a bit more definition of what they do and how they do it. Okay, now there, and the big one. was one more variant of the Hunter. So the Vanguard has the same chassis overall, same crescent shape, but there's one more in the original game called the Marauder, which had essentially a missile rack on top. We'll see if that makes it in. They're so far bringing in all the original monsters. Though again, I suspect some of the Wave 2 monsters will get modified. But the units they're playing with and seem to have already dropped some of the guard units that showed up in the first edition, so we'll see. Overall, I'm fine with how they're playing around with the units a bit more. I do hope that the Mark 1 monsters all make it in. Okay. That's pretty good, I think so. I'm gonna call that good, let that dry, and then do the lighting when it's done. I'll get those other 2 units off camera. Alright. Lighting effect. Ashen blue 09057. Thinning it out with 2 to 3 parts water per 1 part paint. I'm gonna have to do it in 2 stages. At least. So this color scheme's a case where I had a very strong impression of what I wanted to do from the get-go. With a ghostly blue-gray, coupled with a bright Martian red. Not what you'd expect from a Martian-based faction, especially after movies like War of the Worlds and Mars Attacks, and the general association with the color green with radiation, which in the first version, the Martian Menace was radioactive, but power source is something that's been done away with for 2nd edition. But this will take enough time that I'll just get one of the power pods and one of the saucers done on camera. Okay, dropped a few frames there, but we're okay. The joys of technical difficulties strike again, right? Alright. This is going to be particularly tricky. I'm not too worried about the spillover onto the main housing of the armor here, because that'll come out when I highlight. I think I can do this. Okay, so I think I can get the power pods in one go. The saucers and Hunter will need 2 rounds each. I'll just get the bottom on a 2nd take just to be safe. And I'll start on the bottom for the Hunter. So let's see. Not easy by any means, but worth it to take the extra time. So, that's all I can do right this second, so let that dry, and once it does, I can move on. Okay. Second stage is shading. Or, not shading, lighting effect. Get little dots on the power pod. Trying to leave some of the white showing through. It's the white showing through that really helps sell the illusion that it's glowing. I'll get the other power pod off camera, but for a saucer, getting the abduction rays. Making sure I'm not dropping hundreds of frames a second, because that's still a problem. One I need to be mindful of, because it's happened several times during this video already. Especially considering I'm hearing the noises my computer usually makes when it decides to do that, but sometimes it makes those noises without hosing me like that. Okay. Now for the hunter, I'll get the other saucer off camera. Okay. Let's see here. Unlike the saucers, the hunter does have a distinct front. And this would be the rear. Probably get those lights on the wings last. On the concept art, they had the rear lit up as well, but I'm choosing not to. Okay, still okay on the frame rate. Using short, controlled strokes to apply. Now switching my grip a little bit. Okay. Now once that dries, I can highlight and go from there. Alright, time to highlight. Coppery Orange 09102. And going to a dry brushing technique for this. You want a ragged feathered brush. No water, straight paint only. You're going to rub most of it out on the paper towel until it looks like there's nothing left. And dust the area to be affected. It'll catch on the raised elements, but not the recesses. Also dries almost instantly. Almost, but not quite. And I'll just get one pod, one saucer, and the hunter on camera, just for the sake of keeping the time down. This has already past the 30-minute mark. Well, I want to show a detailed video. I also don't want to bore my audience to death, which is visible on earlier videos where I do show almost everything. For example, doing every model and entire unit of Space Marines as an example. And I'm refreshing my paint as necessary. Trying to go against the sharp angles, because that will catch this better. I'm also trying to focus on one section at a time. So for example, here the gun, then the hull. And now the wings. Okay, I'll get the other two off camera, and then the last step will be to actually glue them onto their flight stand bases. Right. Okay, final step. Using a extra thick cyanoacrylate glue. This is a MaxiCure. It's kind of a store brand that I've seen at Hobbytown and other places. So just a little dot there, and putting the flight stand directly onto the base, carefully centering. This will set pretty quickly. Now I've already done the other two flight stands off camera. I'm going to set that one aside to let it set. Start with the power pods. Little dot on the bottom. Get my base. Have to glue on and hold that onto it. Now these bases come in protective little plastic sleeves, for lack of a better word. Sort of a static cling style plastic. I generally keep them in there until just before I glue the finished model onto the base. Just keeps them as nice as possible, because when you're painting there's going to be a lot of stuff flying around. I recommend against doing any kind of basing work on the bases for this particular game, because it is a miniatures board game, and units, especially units, will be seizing objective spaces, and having the base clear makes it much easier to see what they're claiming. And see, that hardly took any time at all. Now, this is one of the flight bases I've done previously, so a little dot just right in that divot. Just the tiniest, barest pinprick of a dot of glue. And then it's going to take a few seconds. So in terms of articulation, how you can pose these models, the hunter, the gun only goes on one way, but you can get a lot of articulation out of this simple ball and socket type joint. Okay, so I'm going to have this first one fairly straight, but I will eventually get a second of this unit back and get more and get 2 copies of the other one with the Vanguards and Hunter. So playing around with poses a little more on those, but even the turret of the G-Tank has many different angles. So I'm going to do one saucer kind of straight on. And we'll have the abduction array facing straight forward. That's set for a few seconds. Sometimes this will fight you, sometimes it won't. Gluing resin on plastic generally doesn't take too long, but resin or plastic on metal does take longer. Tiny, tiny dot in the socket of the other saucer. Cap my glue, get that set aside. Now on this one, I'm going to play around a little more. And glue it on at kind of an angle as if it's taking off or dodging fire. Okay. And there you can see the difference in articulation just by how they can look different just from gluing on their stand differently. And in the first edition, Martian Menace all had, the flying units had a cone of translucent green plastic for an abduction beam, sort of. And Guard and Shadow Sun Syndicate had these swooshes, and I'm fine with this being the case all around. And that's it. Hunter Saucers Power Pods for Martian Menace. Got a Relic Knights video up next. Until then, I am Ian Stuckey with Mastermind Games, signing out.